What is up, For Honor brothers and sisters? And this one has me excited. Now, I know we are in year 8. Year 8 of For Honor has begun. And I've been really curious, but For Honor has had a ton of events. But I'm always interested to think, which one was the best event? Now, I know we've done like hero skin tier lists and things like that, but this is something that required some time. So I wanted to take some time and really think about it because I had some in my head. And after going through, I definitely still feel like my favorite is my favorite. But I'm curious what you guys are going to think. So I really wanted to take a look at most of those previous events. There's Halloween events, hero-based released events. We had those April Fools, which were not events, y'all. I guess you can consider they were events, but I'm including them in this mold as honorable mention. Like, how can we forget about the Rabbits crossover event? What about the Sheep and Wolves on April Fools? Or when we were tiny-sized heroes for a day? What about that? And I know everyone can remember, at least the old heads, when they on May the 4th, when all our weapons were like lightsabers. They had the Playground edition where we had toy army men for minions and foam darts fired out of the ballistas. And now I'm not counting those as events per se, because what this is focused on is event specific game modes. All right. So I want you guys to start shifting your focus and start thinking which one of those are going to be your favorites that you've experienced. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some that I missed, and feel free to mention it in the comments if there's something that I missed and it was your favorite event or not, because I definitely want you to, but I'm going to cover a lot. I'm going to cover a lot. So there's a lot to get through. I hope you guys enjoy this. So let's get started by going all the way back to 2017. So the very first event that I remember, or one of the very first events that they had, was Feast of the Otherworld.
Welcome to the Feast of the Otherworld.
Endless March. I don't know if you guys remember Endless March, but you're about to find out. So 19 October through November 2nd, 2017, you had the Endless March. This was one of the most memorable For Honor events because I absolutely love that fun, spooky music that they had going on with it. And if you didn't know what it was, I gotta play it for you here. You gotta hear this, y'all. It took place on Sentinel in the fog or at night. Side points were 200 temporary points each, and you could heal there, but mid is where you got your permanent points by taking down those freaking ridiculous Hulk-like skeletons. I mean, those skeletons, y'all, come on now. Those skeletons were no joke. They would erase you in a heartbeat if you played around too much. It was a fun mode, especially on the onset of For Honor, and was a first look at the creativity that the devs had. And it showed that they could lean into the lighthearted fun arena as well. And some of y'all might think they kind of leaned too far into that arena with all the silly emotes and things that they've come out with since and they've added to the game. But hey, the game is still kicking after all these years, and I hope it continues to be supported long into the future because I'm going to continue to give my feedback and my information on it because I love this game, y'all. But back to the game mode. It wasn't one that I loved actually, but it was one of the ones I had fun playing for the time that we had it because it's different and we all like for things to be freshened up a little. Then in December of that same year, we got Ice Brawlers. So Ice Brawlers ran from 21 December 2017 to January 4th, 2018. Ice Brawlers joined the fray. And let me just say, there was a twisted mind working on this one. I know a lot of you have fun with this and others just played it just to get all the fashion like me. That's basically why I played it. That was associated with this game mode. I actually called it horrible fun, y'all. I think that is the appropriate word for this because it's always better to laugh than to cry. How? This is a 2v2 brawl mode that takes place in a unique location that you can't play anywhere else. I think that is the one thing, and that's the one thing that I thought that was pretty neat. You can't play this map anywhere else. It is only in Ice Brawlers. This was specifically created for this event. It's one of the few that was done like this. All the others are kind of like map variants or places where they took the map and did little things to it. But this is actually its own little arena, an own little area that they put together. So that's what makes this really unique. One thing about this event, you better realize that the ice will be melting underneath you as soon as you step on it. And you better figure out that puzzle because there's a little puzzle that you can do when you look at how the shapes of the pieces of ice are and things like that. Because that way you can kind of set it up, trap your opponents so you can just kind of wait them out with more ice and then emote them goodbye in the end. I'll be happy if I never see this event again, or I'll just say see it anytime soon, because I know there's people that miss these events because they're sick, because they have on vacation, because they have school, or because they have other things going on. So I don't want people to miss out, but I got what I needed. So of course, if it comes back, I'll cover it just to let people know that it's back. But aside from that, I won't be playing much of Ice Brawlers again. I tell you what. But with this event coming so soon in the release of For Honor, you're talking about 21 December 2017. The game came out in February 2017. It just made you wonder what else the devs had up their sleeves. And we had a heavy hitter that came next.
Welcome, warriors. Your enemies are gathering.
So the next event I want to talk about is the Apollion's Legacy event, Test Your Mettle. That came from 15 February to 8 March 2018. So how many remember this? Going against the bosses and familiar names from story mode. I don't think there were any players that didn't like this mode. Not only did we get rewards from it, but it was a tie back into the story, and a short story mode at that. So this was some nice player, or you could say fan service, that the devs did a little over a year into For Honor's lifespan. When you look at the gameplay, you can tell by the gameplay how things were, and to me, it almost looks like it's in slow motion to me. But this was always a good one, and one that fans always asked to come back. And they have brought it back, modified in 2020 with the Metal Trials, where you fought their imposters and you fought them by faction. So there was like 4 knights you went against, with one being the Apollyon imposter. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then they had 4 samurai, etc., etc., etc. Instead of having at least one from each like they had originally to go against you. And they also came back later with Death by Metal, which you guys have played, especially any of the new players. You're probably more familiar with that Death by Metal. And we may touch on that later. There's a lot to get through, but at least I got that mention in here just in case we don't. But this was a great event. And as much as people like this event for what it is, we're talking about a PvE event with this. And to get players to love a PvE event, I think that's something in general. But this next event has to be, in my opinion, is one of the best PvP events that they've done. Reigning Inferno event burst on the scene 16 through 30 August 2018. Now, I don't know if y'all remember the volcano that the knights so closely guarded in the faction war for the longest time. Well, I believe this event could have been surrounding that. Don't get lost in the sauce if I'm wrong on that. But heck, the event mode is even based out of Citadel Gate. So either way, Mount Ignis erupts, contributes to what we have in this mode. But I absolutely love this one, y'all. And when you hear it, if you haven't seen it, whatever, hope you're watching and you're seeing this. I'm glad I have some gameplay captured here. And I'm probably showing my hand, but I don't care. But yes, this is one of, if not my favorite, Dom variant event that they've had. But how it worked was, when you control zones, you don't heal. But boosting zones is really boosted, like triple or quadruple boosted. However, you can still get health and stamina by killing soldiers. But my favorite part of this, absolute favorite part of this, is if you're in a zone and then one enemy walks in the zone, the whole edges of the zone goes up in flames. And anyone that goes through those flames will get burned, whether it's a teammate or, most importantly, whether it's other people that are coming to help gank you. So it really helps if there are more than one person trying to rush you on a zone. And it is important for you to try and do what you can to keep them out of it, because it does take a little bit, like a second or two, for those flames to come up. So capturing zones, they do take longer in this mode, but check this out also, y'all. There are no feats or perks. How good is that for a change up? I absolutely love this mode, and I don't think we see it enough. I feel like this mode doesn't come around enough. It's definitely in my top 3 when it comes to the throwback events, and I say throwback events because those are the different than the crossover events that For Honor had. And remember, when I say event, I'm talking about with the game mode. So that rules out things like For Honor and Shovel Knight event. If you don't remember, that was a crossover event, but I'm not including that with my others because there was no specific game mode, you know what I'm saying, that I can remember. But you were allowed to get gear, and that was still cool. That stuff was still cool, but just understand what I'm talking about here. And here was a taste of that Shovel Knight For Honor crossover in case you didn't remember it. You see what I'm talking about. But the next event we're going to talk about is a true crossover event, and this one was special. So For Honor had its first true crossover event game mode. It was the For the Creed event. It came 20 December 2018 to 10 Jan 2019. It was another great event because who doesn't know about Assassin's Creed? So bringing that into the world of For Honor was extremely cool, because I know I remember Assassin's Creed. I never was that heavy in the game, but this event had a great execution that you could get during it. But to keep our singular focus to the gameplay, even though it was another Dominion variant game, it was different because your team really needed to push mid, because once you push mid and got the point, the enemy assassin or Templar would appear, and that gives your team a chance to actually go to the spawn and then take them out. The opposing team, of course, tries to fight you off, but it's a battle between trying to push mid, take out the big boss, and then push mid again so they reappear, so that way you can take them out. You know, you're trying to get those hard points once you take out the big boss. It took place on Citadel Gate, and of course it happened in the early days of For Honor. But the great thing about that crossover event, there was so much good swag, you know, so much good gear that came along with that For the Creed event. And these crossover events, that's one thing, we don't see those come back. They don't come back like throwback events. So it's like once these crossover events happen, they're done. They're gone. And that's crazy. That's crazy. Now I do hear, or I heard or saw, I swear that For the Creed event came back at some point, but I might have missed it. I don't know if I missed it, or maybe I just wasn't on PC then, because I don't have nothing for it, because I just started on PC a couple years ago. So that's quite possible that it came right before that. But either way, For the Creed event was a great event. Lots of good swag that I still wish I had, at least on my PC. And hopefully they bring some of these crossovers event, especially probably my favorite crossover event that we'll talk about shortly.
But night still haunts me. The burning skies. The blood of my comrades.
So next came the Blackbriar Riposte, and that was 14 March through 28 March 2019. Now that is one of the more recent throwback events that we've had, but it first appeared in 2019. So this took place on the Dominion map Harbor, since this map was introduced along with BP, along with Blackbriar. This is a much different take on Dominion, with minions threatening all lanes. So it's not just minions running to mid. They actually run to both points, both side points. And it actually works in a similar fashion to Breach. You know those Breach Archer points where you actually can take the zone, and then let's say you're close to getting the zone and they stop you from getting the zone, and then they says reclaim. It goes more like that, where it's reclaim because you didn't claim it. But once you get it, just like in Breach, it's locked. So that's one thing that's different about this that I like. Defenders are getting their points by takedown of attacking heroes and enemy soldiers, and attackers are getting their points primarily through the zones. So it took me a while to understand how this mode worked when I played it, and I believe because players are so conditioned to play a certain way, it's gonna take a couple games for them to figure out this mode. But once you figure it out, if you take the time to figure it out and you don't just say, oh, this is crap, it's a solid entry into this frequently used For Honor Dominion variant map game. So I hope you guys enjoyed it with the throwback event. I hope you gave it a couple shots, and with it being fresh in your mind, you'll know if this is one of your favorite events.
There's an old tale about this village. A samurai came to deliver justice.
Next came the Shadows of the Hitokiri Soul Rush event. That was 10 through 27 June 2019. So Soul Rush feels more like a race between two teams than a battle, because your goal is to collect the most souls, hence the name. You collect the souls by taking down soldiers. The more souls that you collect, the bigger your bonus. But the thing about it is very risky. If you don't deposit those souls in one of the points, they can be taken from you. If you were taken down by someone on the opposing team member would then collect half your souls. This was another fun mode, and I'm sure if you play with your friends or good teammates, which is almost like any game mode, that's what that goes for, things would be even more fun. As a solo queue player that I am, I still had fun with it while I was playing it, but let's just say I didn't expect it to be very high activity for too long, and it wasn't. There isn't many modes that do stay very high activity, but I knew this wasn't gonna last. It still was a solid event, and like I said, I still had fun with it while it was here. And at least you were able to compete on a map that was rarely played anyway in Canopy. That was one of the bonuses of it. The next mode is Breach Ragnarök, that took place 20 September to 3 October 2019. This mode really separated from the pack because it's the only event mode that takes place on a Breach map, and the players are actually playing a Breach variant. So you have the Emperor's Escape, that we'll talk about shortly, but that is a PvE event. In this one, you get a chance to experience the power of the hammer, and it's pretty dang fun. As soon as the serpent raises his head out of the nearby waters, you better be on the lookout because the hammer is coming, and it's always a battle to get it. If you're the lucky one that gets the hammer, you cannot block or parry, but you can drop the hammer in a couple of ways. So you can use light and heavy attacks for both. You can do both. And if you're running, it's like nothing like finding teammates in a battle, and you just go screaming in there, and you can just run and jump, and boom, you'll be dropping it like it's hot, and it will tear everybody up. What I liked about the hammer in this one, you can get it in all 3 phases. So it's a big help taking out the boss in the end. It's a good way to kind of flip the script. If you're falling behind, you can change things very quickly. And I wouldn't mind seeing this like in rotation more, because the hammer is such a game changer. And it's so different than any of the other modes. It just livens it up. It makes it fun. You definitely are not, you can't take this mode serious at all. If you take For Honor serious at all, that's probably a problem anyway, unless you're playing competitive. But geez, you really can't take, you gotta just have fun with this mode. But Breach Ragnarok was a fun one. It's always a good one when it comes back.
Somewhere between truth and superstition, there is another world. The other world.
The next one that came along was once again Spooky Slashers. And I say once again, it's a Halloween event. Once again, we get a Halloween event in Spooky Slashers. Ran from 17 October to 1 November 2019. This was an event along the lines of the first event, but with this event, you had to get the zones, and once you got the zones, you could actually go down and take one of those spooky minions out. I wasn't the biggest fan of this game mode, but the team always put their effort into those Halloween events. That's one thing I always appreciate the devs for, trying to keep things fresh and liven it up. So, they were really going to dive in with the lighthearted fun after the way people took the last event that they did. They had another like Halloween event called Monsters of the Otherworld, and I think they even combined Spooky Slashers with that one time when it was released. I don't remember if it was with this one or not, but there's quite a few spooky ones to choose from. You can almost choose your best out of the Halloween events. Which Halloween event did you like the most? But feel free to let me know in the comments what your favorite Halloween event was, in addition to your favorite event overall. And if they're the same, that's great, but I will be extremely surprised if it is.
There is no war without sacrifice and unexpected consequences.
The next one that came along was Zan Hu's Gambit Emperor's Escape, and that came 19 December 2019 and ran into 2 January 2020. So I know you heard me mention you actually were on a Breach map with Breach Ragnarok and playing Breach. Well, this is the other one where you're on a Breach map, but you were not playing Breach. So Emperor's Escape is a PvE mode where you and your 3 teammates have to get the Emperor out of dodge. So you're escorting him out of Kyong Pass and battling night heroes on your way out. The knights are trying to steal Zanhu's fire discovery. That's the whole story behind it. And they're looking to take the Emperor down as well. So that's what's going on here in this mode. It's a mode where like some players can work ahead, but others will definitely need to stay back with the Emperor so he is not too exposed. Because if you do that, you're going to end up allowing him to take too much damage, and that's going to end him. So if you work together, this mode is no problem, quick and painless. It's just how you approach it. I always enjoy some co-op events, so the players, especially players like me, like I always tell you guys, to solo queue all the time. I solo queue all the time, and it's organically have a chance to play with and for each other. So we get some friendly emote spam versus that toxic emote spam that we see a lot. So it's really just a toxic free time if you work together. It's not a horrible mode, but after a few runs, it kind of gets repetitive and you're ready to move on. Another crossover event came next.
Most people think time is like a river that flows swift and sure in one direction.
Blades of Persia came on 12 March of 2020. It ran through April 2nd of 2020. Now this game mode took place on Harbor, and it was a special game mode. I mean, it had its own flavor that was going on. The prince would just show up out of nowhere and start attacking whoever. And he will also clear the point if you choose to run. The prince had some really dope feats. He could teleport to any player on the map. He could revive up to 50% of his health. He used some powers of time to slow down heroes for a few seconds. And he had a spear storm attack that was lethal as heck. He lit everybody up, y'all. he was no joke. He lit everybody up. I definitely dropped a few really in this mode at times. Those feats were crazy. The mode did have 2 distinct weeks, and I know in the second week, he became the Dark Prince. And this was the cool part. With the Dark Prince, when he died, other heroes can pick up the dagger. And then you'll have those nice abilities with 75 health and no renown gain. But what I love really about this game mode during the time was the unique execution that you got with it. I love that unique execution. I want it back. You know, it's still one of my favorites, but I only have it on my Xbox. And it's another reason why we need cross save and cross progression, you know. This was a fun one though. This was a fun crossover event. The next event was a Tyrants Test. It took place 22 July through 27 August 2020. This took place on the Shard, and heroes would take on Astria/Warmonger and the rest of our team, which was BP, Zanhu, Yorm, or Hito. It was a best out of 7 contest. The tough thing with this one was with each round that went by, win or lose, they got tougher to beat. It was not easy if you didn't have decent teammates. It was a tough mode. And if you try to win PvAI, that was like the ultimate challenge. And if you did it, come on, you lying. I want to see video proof. That mess was really hard to win 4 out of 7 PvAI. Your bots got whooped. I'm telling you, especially when they started getting all that, you know, attack buffs and defense buffs and shields, you know, all that stuff. That was a pain in the butt. But good mode, good mode. The next one was Carousel of Death. Took place 27 August 2020 and went to 3 September. This was a 4v4 mode where you had to take out the other team and make sure everyone on the other team was on a respawn timer, so basically they were dead. So this game could be very short or it can go the distance. So this was not one of my favorite modes as far as Carousel of Death was, but if you are a last hero standing type of player, it is fun to play a few times. Heck, maybe this one was even your favorite. But I like Carousel of Horkos, but we'll talk about that here in a second.
You've started a rebellion, haven't you? Well, I've got a plan. You help me break in.
The next event was a 3-week event called Tales of Rebellion. Had 3 pretty much phases to go along with the story. Ran from 17 September of 2020 and it ran through 8 October. So the first one was Rescue. This was a PvAI only mode that you had to protect the blacksmith. You had to go through 5 zones and keep pushing forward throughout, but you couldn't push too far, because if you did, you didn't keep around the blacksmith, she would be getting attacked, so you would always need someone helping the blacksmith, not taking too much damage. In the end, there was a corrupted Kensei that the team had to fight. So the second week, it was Pillage, and this was a different kind of version. It was a 4v4 version, PvP, where you would kill soldiers to collect Draconite, and once you hit the limit, 1,000, the enemy team started breaking, and then you could take them out. It's very similar to how Soul Rush worked for the Hitokiri event. Then the third one was Overthrow. So that was a PvAI mode. And once again, this was the 3rd week now, where the team protected Ilma. And I don't know if you guys remember that scythe you could get during this event. And while she worked, and then someone from the team used a weapon when it was ready to attack the big boss. So for this particular mode, you're just protecting her while she's working, doing her thing. And then once she got the weapon ready, somebody would grab the weapon and then they would run down and start attacking the Yato. So that's how that 3 weeks Tales of Rebellion worked.
The past months have led to this. Will you join the Chimera Alliance? Or battle alongside the Order of Horkos?
The next event we're going to talk about is the Battle of the Eclipse. That took place 28 January 2021, ran through 18 February. So this took place in the Citadel Gate map. And both teams had to battle for the Scythe because that was going to be the only way to weaken and take out the Griffin or Apollyon that was on either side of the map. So this is when they were really pushing the lore towards picking a side between the Chimera Alliance and Order of the Horkos. I'm not big on the lore. I don't quite all understand what took place here or there. I always gotta listen to that lore recap. If you haven't, feel free. I like how For Honor did that lore recap like the first 6 years of For Honor, and then they did one for last year, recapping year 7. So I really like how they did that, and they're gonna have to do another one that's gonna be upcoming. I wasn't missing this when it left, honestly. I tell you guys all the time about how I play this game, and even when I'm streaming it and I catch other people's streams and whatever, and I like playing with other players when they stop by because it's fun. It's more fun when you're playing with other people. So let me know what you thought of Battle of the Eclipse. But those ballistas by each point was annoying. You had to keep an eye on those. This was just not a very fun event for me personally. Just didn't really care for it, but maybe you did. Let me know why. The next event that came down the pipe was the Carousel of Horkos. So that ran from 11 March through 1 April 2021. So this was a 4v4 deathmatch style event where it is the best 3 out of 5, and you win by making sure the other team are all dead at the same time. it starts out with the 5-second respawn timers and it slowly increases over time. And if that doesn't make it challenging enough, they include the Horkos Challenger, which is Zanhu Guardian Bot. And once again, you got a bot that's going in on everybody. Not as bad as the Prince though. Not as bad as the Prince in Prince of Persia. So don't start doing work or he's going to be on you quick. I just let you know, especially in this mode. And don't think the other team won't use that to their advantage, because they will. But the fun part of this is whatever team takes out the Horkos Challenger gets the fire attack buff. So you take out that Zanhu, you get the buff. Your team gets the buff for that round. And that buff is huge in deciding the outcome, especially depending on what it takes or when it takes place in the round. Sorry. The story is kind of funny how Zanhu is actually the challenger. Apparently he tried to assassinate Astria and failed. And if you didn't know, Astria is who is overlooking the fight that takes place in a modified pit duel map. So Zanhu is in there fighting for his life. So just keep that in mind next time you're playing this mode and understand a little more why he don't give a dang about nobody. The next event is the Heralds of Chimera event. It took place 22 April to 13 May of 2021. So where do I start with this event? This is as close to a big team battle as you're gonna get with the game modes. It takes place in the ring. I don't know if you know what the ring is. The ring is the Knights duel map. It's a single pick 4v4 mode that is best 4 out of 7. And it's pretty much all action and all fun. Every hero will have a chance to be a herald, which will have you light up as blue or orange depending on which side you are on, and you will have an increased health pool. The first team to lose their herald loses the round. So while you have fun just going after everybody, you need to keep an eye on your herald so they don't die. If you are not a herald and you die, the respawn timer is set for like 5 seconds, but it increases 5 seconds after each death. And another cool thing about this is the heralds of each round are also the only ones that can get and use feats. So pick your feats wisely, which means also pick your hero wisely for the mode. I'm not sure if this one is ever coming back, as it felt like they were saying goodbye to it prior to when it came back in 2023, but it's such a fun mode. I wouldn't mind seeing it back again. The number of heroes we have makes single pick a non-issue. I think the only way it is an issue is if you're trying to get an event item with your hero. That's when it's a problem. But they do have PvAI, so you can always play PvAI for that. That's the workaround. But the game mode shines in PvP. The next event was the Visions of the Kyoshin, 10 June 2021, and it ended 1 July 2021. This event took place on Temple Garden, where you had 2 Kyoshins on each point. If you're the player that takes them down, you get this ability to see like this mysterious Kyoshin meditating by either point. You know, I had missed him, but other people mentioned it, so I guess he was there. But most importantly, you get to heal on attack. So you land an attack, you get some healing going on. So that's always a bonus. It only lasts for about a minute or until you're actually taken down. This really felt like a normal Dom match overall, but adding guardians on both points. And the ledges were blocked off even, so you couldn't just make quick work of the guardians, take them down and then just move on with yourself and do something else. There's plenty of renown, like if you were to take down one of the guardians, but most teammates really didn't care. Or they thought like, oh, I already have my tier 4, let me allow my teammate to get this takedown. Nah, nobody did that. You hope that it happened, you wish that it happened, but it didn't. Thoughtful play, thoughtful players, right? I tell you what though, I do see more of it in DOMs these days. I do see thoughtful players, and I see players that are getting more frustrated with the actions of other players. But we have to, right? We have to get better at it eventually. It's really the main game mode that we're playing. But anyway, back to Visions of the Kyoshin. That is a throwback event that has come and gone a couple of times as early as last year. But it's an okay one. Not the greatest, but it's okay. Hey, maybe your favorite. Tell me why. All right, we're coming up on the last 2 events that we're going to cover, and this one, very sentimental to me. The Dead by Daylight Survivors of the Fog crossover Dom variant event. Oh my goodness. This was the one. But anyway, 21 October to 11 November 2021, that's when this event took place, and this has to be one of my favorite events of all time. It was another Dominion variant that took place on the Cinder Mill map. It also had some of the best fashion you can get out of any game mode through the effects, and the executions were just awesome. It's another event that I wish would come back, but let me just break down the event for you a little bit in case you didn't remember or you never seen it. So in this event, you have to worry about the Trapper. So while you're capturing a zone, which is in the generator area, and you're just sitting there in silence hoping this generator gets going, the trapper will pop up out of nowhere and you won't get the zone, and he would just be terrorizing the heck out of everybody and whoever else is on the point. But killing the trapper gets you your hard points, and you get way more points for boosting the generator if you get that generator going as well. This game mode is so much fun, and one of, if not the most fun crossover game mode, and maybe pretty much the most fun game mode ever. We had never been able to play a Dom type game mode on Cindermill until this, and it was, I just keep saying it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I hope some way, somehow, we can get a chance at these executions again, because they are so good, and at least play this mode for a weekend or something. Just give us a weekend. It was great.
Long before the Cataclysm, before Heathmore, Everboard's name, a brave warden vowed to bring peace.
And the last event that we're going to talk about is the Oath of Wyverndale. So that took place 17 March to 7 April 2022. This was a Dominion variant that wasn't on a Dom map. So just like we had Cindermill previously with the Dead by Daylight crossover event, Survivors of the Fog, this one, Oath of Wyverndale, was as well. And it took place on Cathedral. And this just got us wanting a new Dominion map even more. Or at least, hey, these aren't being played on the deathmatch maps, so you need to convert them. And I think this was them testing it. This was them testing it, I think, testing that theory. But I don't want to stray too much. I just want to tell you about this particular event. But we know they're converting deathmatch maps now, and this is one that could very well be one of the initial ones. It's not my first choice, but wouldn't be surprised if it was. So with this particular game mode, there were two sides. And when I say two sides, I'm talking about there was two side points. And they work like they do in a Dominion match, but you get more points and defensive boosts. Then you had Lord Ramiel serving as a pseudo B point, because the team that takes him out gets hard points, and the person that takes him out and gets over 200 renown themselves. So there's a huge advantage to being the team that can balance those close counters, because it was close. It was a close proximity. There are attack and shields up top, so there's plenty to keep you engaged and feel threatened. So this mode can move really, really fast. I haven't seen this game mode come back at all, so it'll be interesting to see if it does, with them deciding to make the conversion map move soon and how it will affect it all. They may drop it as a throwback event and then release it as a Dom map shortly thereafter. So there's a little food for thought. So we covered a ton. I told y'all this was gonna take some time. We covered a ton. I think it was fun. I think it's worth it. It's nostalgic. It's everything. And it reminds us of all the good times in Inferno, some of the kooky ones, some of the weird ones. But I love it all because it was all a fun experience along the way. I'm still playing this game. A lot of you are, even if you jump out and jump back in. So I just thought this would be a fun thing to do. But ultimately, what I want to know now is, what were your favorites? What were your favorite events? And feel free to break them down. Favorite crossover event, favorite Halloween event, and your favorite event overall. You know, your favorite throwback event. You know, feel free to break them down. I want to hear your thoughts. This definitely, it took some time to get through. I hope you listened up to this point. I really appreciate you. There's plenty of videos you guys can click on. You clicked on this one, but this was definitely a little fan service I wanted to do and put out to you guys, because I'm a fan just like you guys are of this game, and I just thought this would be a little fun thing to do. So I hope you had your popcorn, hope you had some drink, hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. I hope to see your thoughts in the comments, and I hope others comment as well. I like to keep the conversation going with For Honor. This is just something else to put out here to keep the conversation going. What events did I miss? I'm sure there were some events that I missed. Feel free to throw those down there. I would love to see those, be like, oh crap, yeah, I forgot about that. It happens. But appreciate y'all. That's all I got for this one. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.